All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nahul Vias, and I'm a Director of Analytics Consulting and leader of the Tableau Solution Group here at AVAP. We're so appreciative of the opportunity to present to you all today, and certainly appreciative of your attendance and engagement throughout this session as we discuss opportunities to leverage Tableau's capabilities to support the design and build out of a change network. Before we dig into our topic, I'd like to provide just a quick overview of AVAP and share a little bit about ourselves. AVAP is a cross-platform, industry-specialized global IT advisory and management consulting firm. Our span of consulting and technology resources enable us to build for the future faster and better than before, combining a massive breadth of experienced consultants across several consulting practice areas with the ability to support clients across multiple sectors and industries. Our analytics practice is within AVAP's Advisory Services business unit, which combined with other market-leading advisory practice groups enables AVAP's consulting resources to support our clients through various offerings, ranging from business analysis and process design, enterprise solution strategy, organizational change management, program and project management, and testing and deployment project activities. These consulting offerings provide our clients with the assurance that AVAP brings a market-leading technical and functional consulting resources to every engagement to support our clients' goals. Our analytics offerings span the entire data value chain from organizational data strategy, where we help clients develop a comprehensive roadmap to their analytics and technology investments, rapid ROI, where the focus is on driving adoption and utilization of an analytics capability across the organization's footprint, and continuous value to focus on sustained and scalable growth. These three pillars are complemented through our ability to execute engagements from robust and transformative solution delivery supporting enterprise data initiatives, rapid Tableau dashboarding quick starts, Tableau technical health checks with a focus on the infrastructure, setup, and configuration of the Tableau environment, and we even serve as a managed services provider to some of our clients to fully host their Tableau capability, accompanied with full service operational SLAs and hands-on maintenance and administration. AVAP's OCM practice is one of our core capabilities and one of our fastest growing client offerings. Our OCM practice serves as a key differentiator for our clients and allows us to offer both standalone OCM offerings and in partnership with our technology projects. Our OCM capability provides the full spectrum of change management offerings to support an organization as they work through their transformation initiatives. In addition to project-focused OCM work, AVAP is the only ProSci authorized training provider in the United States. And of course, AVAP is the sponsor again for this year's TC20. We're so very much looking forward to you all checking out our virtual booth. Give us an opportunity to learn about your data journey, give us an opportunity to network with you all, and let us know how we can support you and your needs. With that said, it's my pleasure to welcome our presenters for today's session. Josh Coleman, consultant in our organizational change management practice. Welcome, Josh. How are you?
Thanks, Nahul. Great to be here.
Awesome. And Stacy George, one of my faves, senior analyst in our analytics practice. Stacy, how you doing?
I'm pumped to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited for this use case. I'm super excited for this session. I know this is an incredibly important element to a lot of the work that we do to support our clients' integration of OCM and the blend of analytics and combining that. That's power-packed. With that said, Josh, the floor is yours. If you don't mind walking us through the use case.
Yeah, thanks, Nahul. So as Nahul mentioned, organizational change management is a key capability for us here at AVAP. And with that, the use case today that we're going to walk through is really how we can leverage Tableau and data analytics as we're standing up a change agent network. A change agent network is something that we would do on a lot of our change projects and really allows us to bring together a core group of individuals to really drive the change. You may meet on a monthly basis, give them information to take back to their teams, and really create positive gossip and influence throughout the organization, really at that mid-lower level, not just coming from a top-down perspective. So, with that, this has been historically something that we've, leveraged leaders to influence who might be on this change agent network. But, today we're going to really look at how we can leverage real data and real meaningful data to drive those decisions. So, some of the inputs that we're going to walk through is a, survey that we've conducted as part of the change team. And then, we've mapped those to some key attributes that you'd want to see in your change agent individuals. And we'll walk through how we can leverage that information to make these decisions. A couple things that we just want to talk through from an organizational change management side that you may hear us talk about. So we may refer to it as OCM. We may use the word sponsors. When we say that, we're thinking about really those executive level leaders who are the face of the change and really driving this change. We talked through kind of what a change agent network is, really that group of individuals who are helping us drive change throughout the organization. And those change agents are those individuals themselves. Another concept that we may reference or talk about is the J-curve. And really what the J-curve is it depicts how change creates disruption within an organization. And our ultimate goal as members of an organizational change management team is really to minimize that dip and move through that J-curve as fast as possible. I'll hand it over to Stacey to talk through a couple of the data overview pieces as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh, for some of that OCM perspective. For more of a technical deep dive, we did want to take just a quick minute for the audience to really understand the data that feeds into this visualization. So from the start, there are the 6 key change agent attributes that are going to be feeding in here. That is from a survey that's leveraged from our OCM capability. From there, those 6 change agent attributes have 3 kind of questions that accompany each one of those. Employees by themselves kind of go ahead and self-evaluate how well they're doing on each of those statements. That ranges somewhere from a strongly disagree to a strongly agree. With those qualitative answers, our data analytics team kind of really comes in and assigns a quantitative value. So the scale kind of looks like for that strongly disagree, it's going to be a -5. Disagree is a -2. Neutral is a 0. Agree is a +2. And strongly agree is a +5. So with that, that's kind of an overview of what's going on behind the scenes for the visualization. Before we kind of switch gears and I change into the Tableau visualization itself, we did want to take some time to just kind of overview what you guys are going to be seeing to help orient when you jump into that. So the first view that you're going to see in Tableau is specific to those 6 change agent attributes. We're going to be diving into some of those definitions. There's going to be a box that stakeholders can kind of put their own weights and measures in order to properly forecast for the future. So stay tuned for that feature as we dive more in. The second view that we're going to look at is a month overview where you can see individuals' responses across the company. So it's going to be every employee kind of spread out across so you can see the lay of the land. Our most granular view is going to be that employee overview that we will show. And so again, it's going to dive into a specific individual and see how their scores really play out for the different attributes. And then finally, we're going to end with a year overview, which is going to be the highest level. It's going to aggregate everything for the company, and that's where you're going to get some trends and some forecasting along the way. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the dashboard. I'm going to switch screens and dive in.
All right, great. So what we're looking at here is really that initial analysis that Sissy was talking about of the key attributes that we'd want to see in our change agents. So there's those 6 attributes, adaptability and flexibility, credibility, is someone, believable and credible within the organization. Individual consideration, is this individual someone who can be coached and mentored? Are they persuasive and inspirational? We really want that to be a key attribute as these individuals are leading change. We also want to, measure if they're supportive of the change and the organization as a whole. And then, are they willing and open to new ideas? Do they have a growth change mindset opposed to like a fixed mindset?
Definitely. And then from just a Tableau tool perspective, we do want to digest what we're looking at for the users a little bit more. From a functionality perspective, there's a bunch of different ways that you can utilize Tableau. In this specific one, it's less graph heavy and more of just something to really land on as a user, make sure you're in the right mindset, you're caught up on everything. As Josh said, you can kind of see these icons and the different capabilities by name. To the right of it, of course, that classic brief description for each of those attributes. And then with that tooltip, as you hover over the description, it will feed in the 3 different questions that are asked of employees to evaluate themselves on. So as you can see, for the specific trait, it's having the I believe statements, and then with that, an employee would, of course, pick anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree. As you hover over each response, it does update accordingly, so that's pretty nice if someone ever forgets what exactly is measured for a specific attribute. And then as we've teased a little bit over here on the far right, again, are these prompt boxes. We'll really dive in and show you what that really means for trend lines and forecasting later on in our year overview, but we do want to call it out now. This is going to be that interaction page where you can start putting in specific numbers dependent on your company, your needs, your philosophies. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just show you what the initial month overview would look like.
Great. Thanks, Stacy. So this is really that initial month. So we've conducted one survey to date in this kind of scenario. And this is now information that we can leverage to create our change agent network. And so you can see the box plot over on the left there that shows kind of how scores are distributed across the organization. So we, have a fair amount of individuals that really scored positively, but we also might want to dive into those individuals down in the lower half as well. And so I'll let Stacey kind of, show some of the functionality here, and then we can talk about how we might want to leverage this to make some decisions.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So what you're seeing from a graph perspective, over here on the left, a typical classic kind of spread of the data. You have the upper scores here in the top line, that bottom low score in the bottom area, of course, and then your median score is going to be appearing in the box itself. Each of these gray dots does indicate a specific individual employee. So a really quick, visually appealing way to understand your full spread from the highest to the lowest, of course. On the right, the same information is being displayed. This one is more in a traditional classic list view, of course, kind of showing some of those more intricate personality things from first name, last name, department, geography, and then the score itself can be filtered to sort either by highest to lowest, lowest to highest, however you deem fit. Tableau is known for its filter capabilities. So up here at the top, we give users the ability to really hone in on different things, such as a specific department, a specific geography, and of course, if they want to just see a certain number along the change agent scores, you can do that as well. Now, Josh kind of mentioned really honing in on a certain sect of the diagram, so I'll kind of kick it back to Josh for the storytelling.
Yeah, so now it's time to set up our change agent network. We have all this great information, and as Stacy was saying, you might want to focus in on having individuals from certain departments or certain geographies. But let's say we also set that we want to have X amount of individuals from the lower half. We might want to include some of these individuals who didn't score really strongly, because we know that if we can get them to be converted to really strong change agents and strong believers in this change, that they can, really drive a positive reaction across the organization. So let's drill into Lionel per se. So we go through, looking at individuals who we might want to, evaluate their scores and look at those individual scores. And so here we can see that, the biggest thing dragging Lionel down is his support for, the change itself and the organization as a whole. Pretty flat. Maybe a little positive on some of those other areas, individual consideration, not too concerned about that one. So, Lionel might be a really great person that we can get involved in the change agent network and hopefully bring up that supportive for the change and organization score and, coach him on some of these other things too. So we'd say add Lionel to the change agent network.
And again, just kind of jumping in to talk about some of the visual features here. What's nice about this graph, Tableau allows you kind of to add in some comments. So if anyone at any time forgets that classic scale we've been really hammering on, you can see on the y-axis that high score of a 5 would be a strongly agree, low score of a -5, again, being that strongly disagree, just as another way to orient yourself as you move through the different views. I do want to just kind of talk about this top graph here for a minute. So again, lists out some of those specific employee information that someone in leadership might be interested in. And then over here, you can see that overall score. How this individual is rated as a -3 is just from a simple addition. So taking all of these 6 values and just adding them together to get a holistic score. Awesome. Now that we've kind of dove into an individual, let's go to the highest level view that you could see.
Okay, great. So this is really showing us the J curve that we mentioned earlier in the presentation. So you can see that red line at the bottom, and that depicts on what a change agent, or what a change effort rather, would look like with a minimal change management efforts. So you can see that dip kind of as the change progresses along, and that's really, measuring all those attributes that we have on that first slide. So, how excited people are, really their ability to do their jobs, those type of things. And the blue line is, up until May, actual data that we've collected along the way. So you can see that we established the change agent network in March, and you can see that, now we're in the May timeframe, so we have a few data points to really go off of. Everything past May is kind of what we're projecting might look like based on what we know about the organization and the information collected to date. So you can see, overall trending pretty good. We're above kind of the expected output from the kind of J curve, which is what we want to be seeing. But we're really at this kind of influential moment in the May timeframe, and want to make sure that we don't dip any further and really start seeing that upward trend now. So, I'll let Stacey kind of talk a little bit about some of the features on this slide, and we'll come back on how we can make some decisions here.
Perfect. Yeah, I think Josh has done an excellent job kind of describing this bottom graph here with the different dips and where you can see if the change agent network was established, and of course this current month. I want to take my time just to call out this top area up here where you're going to see some specific numbers. These numbers, again, just add another layer of detail and understanding for which specific attributes are at for the entire company. So these scores right now are an aggregation of all the employees, but of course broken out by each of the attributes. What you're going to be seeing next to them are just little arrow indicators showing the different trends over time. So if it's red and going down, that means it's going down in a negative direction, obviously, from the previous month. So like Josh mentioned, we're currently in May, and those indicators are from the previous month, April. Some actionable items that viewers can be taking away from this dashboard, of course, is looking at each of the attributes, seeing how they're doing, and seeing if that's like actually where they want them to be. So for instance, the adaptability and flexibility on this one, it's pretty low. It's at a -5. That's kind of the lowest score you can get for an individual attribute. And the arrow is gray and neutral, so there's just not going to be any change occurring right there.
And one of the things that I would want to call out here, looking at those numbers, we're seeing scores go down, and that's to be expected. And really, what's driving that is, support for the change. That's totally to be expected as people are really starting to feel this. And persuasive and inspirational. I think that's pretty easily explained too, because people probably aren't feeling the ability to really rally their teams at this point and get them bought in. So, those are things that we want to monitor and look at too. But, Stacey, do we want to go back and look at how we might, change some of those weights to really, think about where we want to focus our change efforts moving forward?
Yeah, good call out, Josh. So as we've been teasing all along, we've been calling out these different weight options. So as we just saw on that whole year overview, adaptability and flexibility is a low score. It's not going anywhere. So as a leader of the company, perhaps they want to start thinking, well, what if we put a lot more weight and emphasis specifically on this attribute? What's going to occur for the next few months? How is that going to change what's going on? So as an individual user, you go in here. You can double the amount of emphasis you're putting on it. So in this case, I'll put a 2. The way that the model is structured, because there's 6 attributes, the total of these numbers need to add up to 6. So if you're putting a lot of emphasis on a specific attribute, then you're going to have to de-emphasize another. In this case, we'll just go ahead and knock credibility down to 0. Perhaps that's not something that at this time you're overly concerned about.
Yeah, and you might want to really focus on one of these for a variety of reasons. Some of that might be maybe adaptability and flexibility is a stated value of the organization. We see that in a lot of organizations we work with. Really want their employees to be flexible, adaptable. So, that might be why you choose that one, or you might put it on one of the other ones that you're seeing kind of a negative trend, and really help, us as a change team make decisions about things that we want to coach on in our next change agent section. Do we want to be pushing more information about, the change itself, or is it really a matter of people needing some coaching on how to, lead through change and things like that? So, we've put it on adaptability and flexibility. Let's jump back and look at how that plays out. So, what we've said is if we as a change management team focused on helping people be more adaptable and flexible and didn't focus as much on credibility, how might that play out? And, this is all based on data that we have so far. And you can see that this yellow kind of trend line is now this forecasted change agent score with those changes that we made on that first screen. And so if we did indeed, do some coaching about adaptability and flexibility and help individuals really work through that, we could assume that we might see a positive, even more positive rather, trend than what we were already working along. And we could go back and play different scenarios out on that screen multiple times to really help us make decisions for the next time we meet with this group and what we want to focus on. So it's a great tool, to really help drive our change efforts and make really strategic decisions on what we want to be leveraging.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a good time to just call out Tableau's functionality. There are some just like native pre-packaged things within Tableau that really helps with some of the forecasting model. But of course, Tableau is unique in the sense that it does allow people to have a little bit of free reign. So if you're someone who has specific desires and needs for a forecast model, or you're really confident and know exactly how you want it designed, Tableau kind of has the best of both worlds there. You can pick something that's already there for you to just plug and chug away, or you have some design ability within the back end. With that, I think that the next part of our story, we're really going to emphasize going back to the Change Agent Network and how you can make tweaks to it accordingly.
Yeah, so, as we can see, we're in the month of May right now in this story. And so let's drill into that and look at kind of what those results say and what we might want to do with them. So here, it's a similar view to what we had initially with that initial month overview. But one of the nice things that we can see now here is the difference in colors on that box plot. And so you can see individuals who are part of the Change Agent Network and who aren't. So, Stacey, let's look at only individuals who are part of the Change Agent Network. And so now we can kind of see where their scores kind of sit. We intentionally chose as part of this Change Agent Network to have a good chunk of individuals who weren't really positive. Those who are already, scoring well, that's great, continue that momentum, and we can have some of those, but really wanted to focus our efforts on those that needed the most coaching. So, that's why you see the lowest individual on the box plot engaged here. Sherwin, that's great. That was intentional and something that you might want to do on your change efforts. One of the great functionalities too here from a decision-making standpoint is maybe we've been hearing from leaders that there's a lot of resistance to change and noise coming out of, our engineering department. And so we could really dive into, what are those scores looking like? And you can see that, the highest scoring, 2 individuals actually in the engineering department are not part of our Change Agent Network. So those are probably individuals that we want to drill into and reach out to and get engaged as part of this change effort and making sure that they're really supporting and, helping us drive change throughout the organization.
Yeah, awesome. I think we're kind of coming to a close on the deep dive in the dashboard itself. But before we switch back to the PowerPoint, did want to call out again some of the really nice features that Tableau allows for. Again, what we're seeing here is things like pops of colors, ways to drill through by filtering, different sort options, ways to emphasize or de-emphasize certain attributes across the company, I should say, or country. You could do geography. But with that, I think that that's just the biggest value add from a Tableau perspective is just it's a way to really storytell and engage visual users on this end, where if you were just looking at a list of different answers from a survey, it's harder to really understand quickly and efficiently the different trends or identify some of the outliers that this setup really allows for. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hop back into our slide deck as we wrap up the presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stacey. So, I think we've touched on a lot of these already, but kind of in summary, this really helps us drive and make insightful decisions in our change efforts. And this is something that, we talked about change agent networks today, but throughout kind of all of our, life cycle of the change management efforts on a project, we could apply similar thinking and really leveraging Tableau and our data analytics practice to help us make, even more strategic decisions. this is also something, we talked about survey data today and how we leveraged, surveys that we've done as part of our change management efforts, but you could leverage additional data sources as well. We could be pulling in information that we know about the employee, maybe from reviews and the HRIS system. It's kind of endless here in terms of what we could, really add to this model. And, we know that there's a ton of other applications outside of change management and also inside change management for something like this. We're, constantly evaluating how we can be leveraging data and analytics as part of our OCM work. And, we know that the data and analytics team is partnering with a variety of organizations on how they can leverage data in their worlds.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a pretty good summary of where we're at on things. I think we'll go ahead and move to the next slide, which is going to be questions.
Yeah, phenomenal. First and foremost, Josh, Stacy, phenomenal work here. I think that this is such a unique capability and something that I honestly I've not seen a lot of use with, right? Analytics in the OCM space. I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. I certainly want to invite our participants, our attendees here. Please use the chat. If you've got questions of yourself, let's get them out there. I want to start with you, Josh. Sticking within the world of OCM here, we talked about kind of the so what other use cases are in play. Walk me through that. I mean, you've seen, through your experience from an OCM lens, how OCM is, typically integrated within large projects, typically integrated within, global organizations to more maybe even mom and pop organizations. But walk me through some of those other kind of use cases that you see this blend and marriage helping out with.
So there's a few that come to mind, and we have a small team here really working and evaluating constantly where we can continue to build this. But a couple that we've done before, in the OCM world, we might do some sponsor ratings. So looking at how strong are some of our leaders around leading change, and being able to really rate them and track that over time and tell that story of how change is progressing as we're getting more sponsors into really building that capability. Some of the other things is more in our initial analysis type phase, and really when we're partnering with portfolios of changes at organizations, how do you assess kind of the risk and impact that a change is going to have on an organization, and then depict that in a meaningful way, through a heat map, or looking at how stakeholders are going to be impacted across the organization at time, and really when changes are going to be getting heavy. It's kind of endless possibilities, and like I said, we're continually to evaluate and look at those use cases throughout the clients that we're working with.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think what you saw here too, right, where we had a tab on the dashboard that was focused in on the weights, right? We understand that this is not a one-size-fits-all model, right? And even the definition of the weights, understanding how do we go from what I would consider an accelerator, this capability essentially is an accelerator, to make it more meaningful and customizable for an organization. Stacey, I want to start with you real fast with this. In the applicability of this type of model, I mean, what are the opportunities that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the concepts are pretty broad scoping, a lot of different ways to fit this into different people's unique needs. Just from a data perspective, it's very flexible. Tableau is able to accommodate some live connection to data sources, some extracts. In this specific use case, we just use some Excel documents and put them in the back end, but of course there's a lot of different source connections, so leveraging things from Qualtrics or other survey gathering techniques to potentially even different web scraping and things. I think the beauty of the blend of the BI and the OCM world is taking the massive amounts of qualitative data that OCM is constantly gathering, whether it be from a month cadence, a weekly cadence, or even just some yearly stuff, and making it fit into something that is actionable, that is measurable. And of course, that story doesn't have to be limited to a company that focuses in engineering and finance. It can be across companies. I think it's pretty agnostic of kind of the work being done by the company, and can really fit different needs because the story is powerful across the board of just identifying people who are going to advocate for the changes needed to your industry.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I know we use the term in this particular use case of forecast, right? But you also work hand in hand in the data engineering space. You understand the elements of R. You understand how to kind of complement that level of data engineering with Tableau. Walk me through, I guess, the difference that you see where we go from forecasting to pure predictive modeling and the ability within this space to really kind of catapult it, maybe even to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just a really cool time in the analytics world in general to see a lot of partnership across softwares and different approaches. So I kind of mentioned this beforehand. Tableau does have just some native capabilities where you can start building out some of the basic, most foundational ways of forecasting. It's very user-friendly, very hand-holding, and it's pretty just like the simplistic, most basic, tried-and-true ways of looking outwards. However, there are people that do really dive into R or to Python, and they want to have a little bit more of that control, some hands-on coding. In Tableau, I think its strongest suit is to be something that's a little bit less technical. So initially, when you kind of jump into it, they're not going to force you into that. However, they have provided various ways to accommodate for people who really want to unpack and peel back the layers. In fact, there are even ways that you can easily integrate into some R packages, and you can do the same thing with Python. So for people who want to powerfully visualize some of those forecast models that you're only going to get from that really rich statistical software, it's been really neat to see where Tableau has taken that partnership between all of those worlds.
Yeah, no, I love it. Josh, I got one for you here because you've got a unique blend, obviously from an OCM perspective, but you are no novice when it comes to Tableau, right? And the understanding how to leverage analytics and really getting your hands dirty in the development of very effective, concise dashboards. Walk me through the lens of an OCM practitioner in the context of how Tableau can be adopted in an organization, right? Yeah. Without making an organization, its people feel overwhelmed by what I would consider, if I'm in the HR space, if I'm in the finance space, if I'm in supply chain and I see analytics, it's not within my immediate domain, right? But I've always found that when we drive adoption, we promote self-service, we do it from the lens of, hey, this capability is super intuitive to use. We can get it in the hands of the business, right? Give them the opportunity. They're fluent in the data. Let them play with the data. Walk me through from an OCM practitioner's perspective on how adoption can be integrated within the mindset and the culture of an organization using analytics, in this case, Tableau.
Yeah. I think it's what we talked about earlier a little bit about how our organizational change management practice is really embedded in a lot of our projects. So, when we're rolling out, Tableau and other analytics tools to our clients, we're always bringing that, OCM mindset to it. From this lens, luckily, and I think Stacey will talk to me this a little bit, like how easy Tableau is to use, but we know that, no matter how easy a tool is to use, there's always going to be resistance, and, people don't love to change, and especially, when analytics might be something new to the organization and to the job function. So, with that, it's really creating that buy-in early on and getting, a sponsor and identifying that sponsor up front who's really going to champion this change and, drive that messaging and, get people excited about this. This is exciting stuff. We work through a lot of variety of changes. I would say analytics is probably one of the more exciting changes that we partner with. And, with that, doing things like building your change agent network. I know we've seen, at other clients, really building a community of practice of sorts where people can partner and learn from each other and build that skill set together and really create that community feel around it. Also evaluating where do people need to do things differently early on and doing that analysis up front is key. And that's where we can then throw it back to Tableau and leverage Tableau itself to create that picture and tell that story early on. So like I said, this is kind of one of the more fun changes that we work on as an organization, and we always love partnering with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I look at this use case again as the perfect marriage of the two most powerful elements that an organization has: data and people, right? And we marry them together, great things happen. Stacey George, Josh Coleman, thank you so much for your time today. Again, I'd like to invite everyone over to our virtual booth. It's the last day at TC. Everyone come check us out. Come network with us. Let us learn about your data journey. Let us learn how we can help you. And maybe you're doing some incredible stuff in the OCM space with analytics as well. We would love to understand that perspective. With that said, this is Nahul Vias. Appreciate your time, your engagement. Stacey and Josh, again, great job. Thanks so much for your time. Have a great day, everyone.